wanted to get paid more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say if the discussion is about the greatest fighter of all time, I would say it has to be John Jones. Like, minus PEDs.
Greatest fighter of all time.
Greatest fighter of all dude, I'm not going to bring the boxers. I'm not going to say, oh, Muhammad Ali was better than him or Mike Tyson or those guys.
But why wouldn't you put Khabib there and Jones there?
Oh, if it's a discussion about the greatest fighter, look, I would say Khabib was the most dominant fighter of all time.
That makes him the greatest fighter, right? That makes him the greatest fighter because
I would say...
Because the whole sport is about the more dominance,
the thing with
right?
Khabib is that, right? Khabib was in his prime when he actually left, and he was pretty young. He was like 32 years old when he actually retired. So if the discussion is about the greatest fighter, I would say Khabib only had 3 defenses. He was the greatest lightweight of all time.
That's what
maybe you can say that. But greatest fighter, he did not win 2 titles, so he never moved up and actually faced anyone. And he never actually defended the titles as much as like John Jones or let's say Anderson Silva. He was great. He could, I believe, if he actually fought for 4 more years, he could have been the greatest fighter of all time. I think even if he moved to like welterweight, he could have possibly beat guys like even Usman and Colby, because they didn't have like as much of a submission game as Khabib. They were good wrestlers, but they didn't have as much of a submission game as Khabib.
But what do you think about when he was fighting Justin Gaethje? Oh, that he's a wrestler. He's gonna beat him. So many people were against Khabib. So many people were rooting for Justin Gaethje instead of Khabib in that fight. Against Dustin Poirier was the same thing. Oh, Dustin Poirier has a black belt, so it'll be a good fight. But then right after he just runs through them, they're like, oh yeah, there was no wrestler in the division. There was no this. Like in a way, you're just taking away a lot of credit from Khabib because it's just he had one-dimensional. He was a one-dimensional fighter. Don't get me wrong. Everybody knew his game plan. He's gonna take you down. He's gonna mold you, right? Everybody came in during their preparation. It's just wrestling, grappling. That's what they're training for. But you could still see Khabib was still levels ahead of those guys. No matter how many minutes, hours, and days they put in. Khabib's just been doing it since his childhood, and that's just his game. That's just his world.
No, that's true. He was so vicious. I'm not gonna take anything away from Khabib.
So then, why do you say John Jones when he's a? Don't get me wrong. He's a good wrestler. He's a great striker. Don't get me wrong. But recently against Dominic Reyes, not too impressive. Like he's an impressive fighter overall, but against Dominic Reyes, a lot of people thought that Dominic Reyes won. And against Thiago Santos, that was a close fight. People actually thought that he's back to, he looks like a human. He doesn't look like a boogeyman that he was in his division. I mean, so that's why I would say the whole sport, UFC or MMA, is about showcasing your level of dominancy. Like when you're actually going there, submitting guys or beating these guys, you're basically putting out your dominance for the whole world to see. Like. So, and Khabib showed it the best, and I would say John did great. Don't get me wrong, he did great, but it wasn't same as Khabib. Khabib just ran through these guys. In terms of dominance, it wasn't even close. I would 100% agree. But again, I would say the same thing. John Jones, the era that he started in 2009 or something. Mm-hmm. And he was beating legends. So he was a very young guy. So when Jones actually came to UFC, I think he was like 22 years old. Mm-hmm. And then the guys that he was fighting were in their prime. So the guys were 29, 30. Point, and those are legends. Like you're talking about guys like Rashad Evans. That is a good point.
Lyoto Machida, those guys. And Jones was beating all of them. Mm-hmm. So Jones was very inexperienced compared to those guys. Like those guys had seen everything. And he fought like old stylistic guys. Mm-hmm. He fought wrestlers. Right, he fought, who was the guy? Rampage Jackson. He fought Rampage Jackson, right? Yeah. He fought wrestlers. He fought great strikers like Machida, one of the best kickboxers. Gustafsson, and
Daniel Cormier. Like,
and then
those are
we know that once you overcome adversity, once you beat legends, once you have like beaten a number of opponents, your passion for the game kind of dries.
Yeah.
For a while, right? Because you don't have like a point to prove. You came in, you dominated, and you beat like the best fighters in the world. Yeah. And now you're facing those young guys. So now you're the old goat. And now you're facing the young guys. Yeah, exactly. They have a point to prove. They have a chip on their shoulders. It's like, John Jones, we have to beat him. But Jones hasn't got nothing to prove. So I think his passion for the game, maybe he wasn't training as much. So that's why the last few fights that he had, those were tough fights. Mm-hmm. But again, I think I'll stick to my point. I would say John Jones would be, if you have like a conversation for like the greatest fighter of all time, John Jones would definitely be in the top 3. And I would put him as top 1.
Yeah, I would agree. He would be in top 3.
Top 3. I would put him as top 1, but again, you can have a conversation. You can have a debate for like Khabib, or you want to put Anderson, or maybe GSP, because GSP actually only had 2 losses.
GSP is up there, yeah.
And he avenged both of those losses. And he was stylistically, he was a complete fighter. John Jones is a complete fighter as well. But I think